She won most talkative in high school, and she has been running her mouth ever since. Welcome to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast with your host, Lisa Fisher.
Okay.
So I think you're one of those that when I introduced you and I promoted that you'd be on, people are going, Kim Alexis, Kim Alexis. Oh, Kim Alexis. It was one of the names synonymous with 1980s. You were the first supermodel.
Well, everybody's got their own opinion on that, but you know, whatever people think, some people claim that supermodel status. It's like, go ahead, whatever. Or you're a former. Sometimes people say former supermodel. I'm like, great, thanks. No. Don't I get to keep the title?
You absolutely get to keep the crown and the sash.
Oh,
and because you've done a lot for the beauty industry, though, and for personal beauty. And we're going to talk about that. But for someone listening right now, it was the 1980s. It was you, Christy Brinkley.
Yep.
Beverly Johnson.
Yep. Carol Alt. Then Paulina. Some are older,
yes.
Some are younger.
Yeah. Right. But you were kind of being pushed out. That was and your face was on every glamour magazine. So anyone who shopped for potatoes in the 80s and they were checking out, they saw your face on a magazine.
Yeah.
So to say, I mean, you literally were a cover girl, and I'm sure you still are with some things, but tell me how you got started, how you got discovered, and what your life's been like.
Oh, okay.
We'll break it up into chapters.
Discovery's way different. So back when I was 17, I was accepted early into college in thought I wanted to be a pharmacist. At 17, you know how you don't quite know what you want to do, but they're like, okay, blindly pick something and that's what you're going to be. Yeah. So I didn't realize I had an interest in nutrition, but back in the day, they didn't really have nutrition. So it was pharmacy. So I was registered in the fall of my senior year in high school at the University of Rhode Island in the pharmacy program on their swim team. Everything was all set early. And so then I looked and I thought, okay, I have all this free time, meaning, you know, I was busy in high school. I was taking college calculus and I was in the band and on the swim team swimming 5.5 hours a day. And I was working for $1.98 an hour in a drugstore.
I love it.
So thinking I had free time, I decided, oh, well, I'll just do something to make extra money because I wasn't making it in the drugstore. So I enrolled in a modeling school because I had to go through a modeling school back in Buffalo before I could start working at an agency. Oh. Never made it to the agency because I got pulled out. Now, meanwhile, I thought I got pulled out of class because I was a tomboy. I didn't fit in. I didn't play the game. I didn't have the portfolio. I didn't have the bag full of the lingerie and still don't. So I literally thought I was being kicked out and they said, how would you like to go to New York? I'm like, nope, I'm going to be a pharmacist. So
that's great.
Finally, they kept at me. And finally I said, okay, well, take pictures. And so they took some photos, a local photographer, and lo and behold, John Casablancas visited Buffalo, came to my little modeling school.
Good.
Exact girls that had been intimidating me earlier, all of a sudden are looking at me like, wait, she got a contract. She's standing up there next to him and he's paying all this attention to her. So here I am thinking I'm getting kicked out, and months later, I'm now part of an agency. So I finished high school, turned 18, and then went to New York.
So were you groomed by your family as the beautiful daughter, the one who you're shaking your head? No, really? So this was news to you that you were going to be a cover girl someday?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I didn't read magazines, believe it or not. I didn't know how to pluck my eyebrows. I didn't know how to put makeup on. And then all of a sudden I'm plunked into New York City and supposed to do my own for catalogs and stuff. And one time I looked over Janice Dickinson. I'm sure you know the name.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I was doing some catalog with her, and she's a crazy girl, but I was watching her and I'm like, okay, what did you use there? And I'm watching her put on her eyeshadow and stuff. And so I put on what she was putting on. I didn't realize that brunettes wear more and colorful makeup than blondes, and blondes look
yes,
like
we
clowns.
do. Mm-hmm.
I looked like a clown next to her. I'm like, oh, this is not working. So I had to take it all off and figure out what worked.
What is your height?
5'10".
Okay, so was that because it got to be a point in New York that they wanted runway to be about 6 feet? So were women then about 5'10" to about 6 feet for runway?
The parameters back when I was, so 78 is when I started, was 5'8" to like 6 feet.
Oh, it was 5'8".
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of short now.
I know.
Isn't that crazy? What were some of the first jobs you had where your jaw was dropped and you were using a phone to call collect back to what's your hometown?
Outside of Buffalo, New York, Lockport.
Okay, so you were in New York. I thought you were in New York, but when you said Rhode Island, it threw me off. But calling your family back collect on a Sunday where it was cheaper, collect call from Kim Alexis. What were some of the first jobs you had then to call your parents about?
Well, literally when John was at the agency asking me to go to New York City, he promised me that I would go to Rome and Paris for the Italian Bazaar collections. So 2 days after I went to New York City, 2 days after I turned 18, so my birthday's in July, I was literally in Rome and Paris. And so imagine seeing and thinking of all the things you learned about. First was Rome, driving by the Colosseum in a taxi, and literally no one was stopping. Like, I'm like, wait, this is like this. You just see this in books. I'm like, everyone stop the car. And of course, nobody did. And we worked around the clock. But yeah, so that was my first job. And within 4 days, I had the cover of that magazine. So that
You had the cover in 4 days.
Yeah.
My jaw is dropped open. My goodness. And were you being paid a day rate then, or as as when agency work then, was it different than it's done now?
Well, I don't know what people get paid now, and they get paid from followers and not because of their talent or their beauty. So don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
But back in the day, this was an editorial rate, and it was pretty low for even editorial.
But it was a day rate. They had a day rate.
An editorial day rate is way different. So it was like $80. And I thought I'd hit the gold mine, like, because I was working for $1.98 an hour. I couldn't even make $80 in a week.
That's right. That was 2 weeks pay for you in one day.
Yeah.
So they weren't feeding you grapes and giving you hand massages flying over first class. You probably flew coach.
Yes. And
got there, hit the ground running.
Yeah. What was funny was that my parents had taught me, if I get on a plane, that I'm supposed to be dressed up. I had pantyhose on and a skirt. And I didn't realize I had to fly overnight. I'm like, what the heck? Why didn't I wear jeans? Everyone still teases and laughs at that.
That's so cute. So did you have siblings back home?
I have a sister. She's a year and a half younger.
Okay. So I bet she was really on the edge of her seat wanting to know what Sissy's doing in
I don't know.
Rome.
She had her head in the ground too. I mean, she was busy and she was super smart. So she was busy with school and with swimming, and I don't know. I mean, I'd talk to her and stuff because we're now really super close. I keep saying super,
That's
but
awesome.
We're very close. Awesome. And I don't ever really think back. I think it was hard on her because she saw all this attention to me, and she had her own strengths she's just an amazing person. So.
Well, the only reason I can even make any statement about you, and the reason my connection to you is my cousin Jody Gibson Cummins was your nanny. She was Jody Gibson then in the late 80s, early 90s. And because there was a Little Rock connection, somebody in Little Rock, I think Barbara Octor, somebody, I can't remember, because Jody was my maid of honor in my wedding. I mean, we were raised together. Yeah, we were raised together. She lived with us after her parents divorced. She came to live with my family and me. It was her dad and the man who adopted me. I'm really adopted into the Gibson family, and my dad were brothers. So cousin Jody just was one of us. So that's how I even know anything. But I remember one of the things that's most impressive about you is you really look at yourself, Kim, as just an average girl who gets to dress up for a living and then come home and play tennis with your boys. You're very athletic. Mm-hmm. You if anyone's listening right now thinking that she is Gigi Hadid and, people are running after her for an autograph, that's not the life you wanted to live. And you don't, that's not you.
No, I'm normally in some type of sporty clothes and outside or doing something healthy. Trying to anyway.
Yeah.
That's where I'm
Right.
happy. That's my happy place.
Yeah. So you were 18 years old getting $80 a day for these shoots, which is so funny. And then you were, I mean, on the cover of a magazine. It's just,
Yeah.
not many people get to ever say they've done that, no matter what era it is, no matter what year it is, except for the Hadids and the Kardashians. But not a lot of people get to be on the front, on the cover. So how was that? What kind of whirlwind was that? How long were you in Rome for that first trip?
Well, we went from Rome to Paris. So I was probably gone 10 days. I don't know. It was 45 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think we were gone about 10 days. But just being able to see cities that had been in my textbooks months before was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Was your dad a pharmacist?
No, my dad is a chemical engineer. Yeah.
Okay. So something in chemistry, though.
Well, and my sister's an electrical engineer with a master's degree. So we have engineering
Are you
brains.
kidding me? Oh,
Yeah. Don't you? She was smart.
yeah. I would say that's kind of an understatement. My son is an engineer, and he would say the smartest people on campus are chemical engineers. It's not just physics, it's also chemistry.
Oh.
And those are two different worlds. So, yeah,
Right.
that is the smartest brain that's there. Are both your parents still alive?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're down in
They
Florida.
are. Isn't that wonderful for you?
Yes.
Are they still in upstate New York?
No. We moved them a couple of years ago down to assisted living in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your story then is there you are, 18 years old. I guess you walked in graduation, but you didn't get to pledge Chi Mega at the University of Rhode Island like maybe you thought you were going to.
No, never went.
Right.
But you know what? They've asked me to do the commencement speech in 2024. I don't have it confirmed yet, but they may give, if I do it, they don't pay you, they give you an honorary degree.
Oh, they
So
do.
I hope
Oh,
that they ask me. I have to go.
What
find
an
out.
honor for you.
Yeah.
What an honor for
Because
you.
I totally skipped out on that whole college experience.
Is that a regret?
In a way, yeah, but something I can't quite fix. I'm taking online courses now for an associate's degree in theology. So,
You are.
yeah, and I want to study also fitness and nutrition to get certified there also.
You'll be the Reverend Fit Barbie doll. I mean, that will be your name, Reverend Fit Barbie. Because really, you and I know, because in our 60s now, that the world isn't about degrees. They're great and they show that you did the work, maybe. But I've learned all my other lessons outside of that classroom or outside of that. The degree was an entree, because I'm a journalist, that an entree into other things. So
You mean the
your degree is
University
in
of
life.
Hard Knocks? Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's
That's
it.
where I graduated from.
Yeah. So you're 18 years old. Then did you go live in Manhattan at the time?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Moved right in.
You left home and that was it. And that's when they used to have a model apartment. So they still do
Yep.
that where they put you in housing.
I don't know if they still do that. I would
But did
probably.
they then?
know.
Is that what they did for you?
Yes, I lived in one for about 3 months, and then I moved off by myself into a tiny little studio on 63rd and First.
Oh, that was Upper East Side.
Yep.
That was kind of ahead of your time, because that's now an area that I would feel better rather. I mean, I know a lot of people want to be in Midtown or something, but that's where kind of the adults live, is what I'm saying.
Well,
There's
yeah.
there's a great Mexican restaurant at 52nd and First. If anyone wants to message me about it,
Oh.
we'll talk about it another time. So there you were. Were your parents then worried about their daughter living in that big, bold city with the bright lights?
Yeah, think so. Yep. Yeah, and I'd call at the beginning. I'd check in and call all the time, and then as you start to get more established and a little bit more comfortable, I found that I would need less and less of them and just be able to live on my own. But I mean, I went from a small little town to a huge city in a day.
Wow, what a story. And then that's when we hear that, because we all watched Saturday Night Live and we knew that there were some wild parties in New York. Was it as wild then for the modeling world that we always heard it was, from illicit drugs and, all these relationships and go, or because you're kind of just a small town girl though.
I was a small town girl. So I was with Kelly Emberg when we were at that model apartment.
Yeah.
So we were in New York a couple of months, and we went out to the grocery store on the corner to go get like a head of lettuce or something stupid, right? And I met Desi Arnaz Jr. on the streets. He was filming he's filming a movie or something. He literally had us sit in his director chair that had his little name on it. And
so cute.
My parents are from Jamestown, which is where Lucille Ball, his mother's from.
I've got chills.
So,
yes.
I mean, we're telling him all this. And he's like, so how would you girls like to go to Studio 54? And we're like, okay, like thinking now. He's like, no, I'll pick you up at midnight. We're like, wait, what? So we went with him to Studio 54. I swear, I got home at 5 a.m. and I called my parents because my dad wakes up at 5. And I'm like, I've been out all night and all I had was a glass of water. But the things that you could see, and that's just, Studio 54 was a crazy place to be.
It was a crazy, crazy place to be. So by then, you said you got there in 78. How long were you in New York?
Well, I was there full time till 82. And then I met my first husband who lived in Ponte Vedra, in Florida. So I started going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's why I needed nannies, because I needed them to help me as I was traveling. My first son was born in 86. So I was busy working. For 11 years, I traveled back and forth and back and forth, sometimes weekly, especially if I was for Good Morning America, I was on every week for 3 years. I was their fashion correspondent.
Yes, I remember that, sitting there with Charlie Gibson.
And Joan
sitting
London.
there. I mean, I just remember that because I worked at the ABC affiliate. So, I mean, I just, you have these indelible memories.
Well, and remember Regis Philbin when it was a local show and not national?
Yes. No. Were you ever on that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was a crazy guy.
You could have been the Kathy Lee. It could have been
Yeah.
the Regis and Kim show.
Yeah, I know. That would have been fun.
Did you have aspirations of doing more on-camera work?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went off into hosting my own shows, but
I remember
was
that.
Never a national co-anchor type spot. Yeah. So
you would have liked...
I had a lot of media training, but I didn't have a broadcast degree.
Oh, they're nothing. Anyone can get them. So tell me then about media training. So they sit you down then and tell you what to do, to look into the camera, to have a perfect bob on your head and that?
There was all sorts of stuff. So at this point, I've signed with Revlon. I was their Ultimate 2 girl, and they put in the contract that they would pay for media training, speech lessons, voice lessons, acting lessons, all this. So
wow.
I would take media training because the early commercials, I actually saw one today that someone posted that on my social media. They're like, they were chatting. I don't know what you call that part when they just talk and you reply and stuff. So she says, I saw this Suave commercial, and I was 20. So you realize back then you don't know what you're doing. So media training really sat me down. They'd record me doing something, either conducting an interview or whatever. And then they'd make you watch it and they'd pick apart everything that you did wrong.
It's cruel. I know.
It's just so cruel, but you do learn. You definitely learn that way.
That's really what my broadcasting experience is. My journalism degree is one thing, but it wasn't until I had my first radio job where I hosted my own radio show that they'd go, and there was a tape recorder. Literally, they taped it, recorded it, stopped it, and they'd go, okay, you should have said these words and not these words. I remember sitting there thinking, somebody kill me.
Right.
Because
but then this dimension. When you add the audio, the video with the audio. Audio is one thing. That's just thinking about words. Yeah. But when you have to think about how you look, so sometimes I don't even like to see what I look like. I'm staring at you, not me, because I'll be self-conscious. Right. It's much easier to just relate to you instead of, believe it or not, people pick up all that stuff in your eyes. So you got to be careful.
I know. Yeah, and now social media is... there are trolls, Kim, who all they do is find pages to say ugly things about the person.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what they do. It's like their job.
how about even, let's go a different direction, social media, where you don't have to have any training whatsoever, and all
Oh,
of a
no.
sudden you're an influencer.
Yeah.
And they're making more money than you and me. And they
Right.
have no
No.
talent. No talent
No.
whatsoever.
No.
They
And
can't conduct an interview. They can't.
No.
They fall apart if they don't have their phone in their hand.
I know. Isn't it crazy? Just there. It is a crazy, crazy time.
I have,
Okay.
I have certain soapboxes that I'm just like, ugh.
Well, we'll get on those. I'll get to that in just a minute. I'm going now chronologically because my producer Darren is texting me saying, I love these stories. And so I want to make sure that we're going back because people could relate to knowing the girl in the big city. So we got you there in 78. In 82, you met the boy's dad.
Jimbo.
Yeah. Okay, and Jimbo has an Arkansas connection. Isn't that part of it?
Yes.
That was it.
His mom was a Walton.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. I knew it.
Yep.
I knew I'd get around to it. Because Little Rock's, Arkansas is a small town. It's a state, but it's a small town.
Yeah.
So we get you to 82. Then how does the most beautiful girl in the world meet just, a guy, a bloke from Ponte Vedra Beach? How did you meet?
I met him in Africa. So I met him on my Sports Illustrated bathing suit shoot in November of 81. So, so I had never heard of Ponte Vedra Beach. I don't even think heard of Jacksonville. And when I met him, he and I mean, after we came back to the States, we just started, I flew back and forth and would be in New York and go down and visit. And the great thing about him is he was such an adventurer. We would go off on all sorts of adventures. And I didn't realize that here I am, city girl, not loving it, but tolerating and working all the time and needing to be there, but realizing that I can go on different adventures. And he flew a plane and we would just fly to the Bahamas for lunch or whatever. And I just realized I loved venturing out. I loved nature, and so did he. And so we went everywhere.
Okay, well, let's go back to Sports Illustrated. How many covers of Sport SI did you do? Do you know?
0.
Nuh-uh.
Everyone says I've done 6. So I didn't do the covers. I was inside. But everyone, all the introductions I have, they're on 6 covers of Sports Illustrated.
I totally thought you were on the covers of
everyone
Sports
does.
Illustrated.
Yeah. Yep.
So you were in the genesis of the swimsuit editions of Sports Illustrated, right? That probably was birthed in the 80s, maybe?
I think it was before that, and Christy was probably more the beginning.
Okay.
Christy and Cheryl Teagues.
Okay, that's right. Cheryl Teagues was another name during
so
that
there's
time.
actually, filmed a documentary that's coming out on the woman who was the editor for Sports Illustrated, Julie Campbell. She's still alive.
Julie Campbell.
She's 96.
Is that right?
And her daughter-in-law is doing a documentary on how the girls felt and how they related to Julie and how Julie would protect us and just the different things that we went through. So that at some point that documentary will be coming out.
Do you feel like so she was a mother hen to you girls?
Yeah. Which it made us feel safe and protected.
I'm sure your parents appreciated that.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Because your dad's there at the lab, outside of Buffalo, or twirling his mustache because he's so smart. He's thinking about how many molecules are in the air. And he's thinking, my daughter has on enough clothing that would fit around my hand because those were teeny tiny bikinis with little strings, and he's thinking, I've got to get down there and help her and protect her. And you were probably like, Dad, I got Julie Campbell.
Yeah, I don't know. It was tough. There was one photo there. The swimsuit was wet and we're in the middle of nowhere in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And they're like, get the suit wet. And I'm like, no, it'll be see-through. And they're like, get it wet. We'll retouch later. Well, the retouching was the opposite of, of which way I thought. And my dad says to me, what were you thinking? I said, I promise you, they said that they would fix it in post-production. So.
And your image, they own your image once they snap the photo, correct? You don't have editorial control over, I'm going to pass on that?
Correct. Yep.
So you could have been taken advantage of. I don't know if you were. That may have been one time where you felt like it wasn't the image you would have chosen. But
that happened all the time. I mean, even covers, I'm like, wonder why they picked that. Or sometimes you do different outfits, a couple different outfits for things, and something they chose, you'd be like, I'm sure there was something different. I would have picked something different. So that's how I would look at photos. It wouldn't be, oh, look, I'm on this and everyone's going to love me. It was it was more like, what could I have done better here? Or did I like my hair? Or what about my expression? And so I was always trying to better myself and with my own feedback. Kind of hard on myself, but it was good.
Well, you're a perfectionist, I would assume.
I don't think so. My mother's a perfectionist, and so baking, she would like, everything had to be measured perfectly. My sister and I dump. We eyeball everything. So I'm not.
She's married to a chemical engineer. It made her crazy. I mean, she's a nice lady, I'm sure, but they are, I'm sure. I mean,
she's a perfectionist.
Yeah, well, because she's married to somebody, though, who is, his job is based on perfection, not just I'll take it. He has to defend that. So
that formula looks about right. Yeah, right.
Right. They would never act that way. But for you, look, because, there are a lot of days I sure don't want to be in a Sports Illustrated swimsuit, pictorial. But you didn't have the choice. There were days you might have felt fat, or you were on your period, or
I didn't go to the bathroom for a week. I was in Santo Domingo, and we would eat rice. So I learned to watch the native women, and if the native women were very, very big, I would be like, "Ooh, don't eat the local food." But if they were tiny, I'm like, "Okay, it's okay to eat the local food." But sometimes you had no choice. So, but the rice did a number on me where I'm doing bikinis and I have not been able to go for a week. It's terrible talk, but
but it's the truth. I mean, when you're full of crap, literally, you're sick. It's toxic.
Yeah.
That's why waste. Think about your garbage can.
Yep.
That's what the toilet is.
But believe it or not,
everybody, you're welcome.
I can show you pictures and you can't see that I had a distended belly or anything. God knows where all that went, or I didn't eat very much. I don't know.
Now, did they edit? Could they edit like they do now?
I don't know. I don't think
so.
No.
I don't think so. Because now you and I could edit on our phone, and I could be a supermodel just with, a move of this and a move of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know that is another complaint or criticism of social media is that, well, I know this lady. In fact, are y'all listening? I got this lady she's local here in Arkansas. She's got 1 million followers. And I met her in person and I gasped because she doesn't look like the picture. I would say there's about 100-pound weight difference. Not that I'm criticizing, but my point is you can make yourself anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I don't think in the 70s and 80s and probably even 90s that they had the capability in post-production that they do now.
Right.
So times have changed. What did you do? Were you a stickler? Because you're athletic. So athletes are different from just normal skinny people. You know what I mean? And that is not a criticism to either group.
Right.
But athletes, well, they're there to be fit.
Well, they eat to perform.
Yes, that's right. So what were you doing then? Because were they putting you on a scale on Monday morning, Kim, going, you're 121, we want you at 120?
Yeah, no, that was probably Eileen Ford, but I was with Elite, so I did not have to deal with that. I would have had a hard time. I probably would have left and gone into another field.
Really?
Miserable, yeah. So for me, when I was first discovered, I was 145. And I was pure muscle. Yeah. I mean, we were number 1 in New York State in our medley relay, and I was 9th in back or 12th in butterfly or something. So
now swimmers though usually have the big, broad shoulders.
Yeah, and they underneath here.
Yes,
because of the butterflyer. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. The butterfly.
Yeah, I would rip blouses. I'd try them on. I'd say to my mom, they feel a little tight, and I'd rip them.
So what did you do putting on a size 2 gown?
I starved. When I found out I
Oh, I
was going to
hate
be
that.
a model in March of my senior year in high school, I then went into starvation mode. And back then, there weren't a lot of diets.
No.
And so it was
Mm-mm.
mainly Atkins. And so I went on Atkins. Well, I'm an A blood type, which is more of a fruit nut granola type girl. And I
Right.
was eating
Hmm.
bacon and cheese and,
Yeah.
oh,
Hmm.
I would
And it was
just
not good,
cry
not a
for
good
an
fit for
apple.
you.
All I wanted was
Yeah.
an apple. But I lost weight. I think I got down to 122, but I couldn't keep it off at 5'10".
At 5'10".
I couldn't keep it off. Yeah. So when we went to Rome, so we're in a 5-star
Yes.
hotel and I've got new girlfriends and we're all ordering room service. I had a 5-star hotel with room service. I was like, I wasn't thinking of cause and effect, but I'm sure I gained some of that back there.
Yeah, that's, I'd say, a little too thin for somebody 5'10".
Yeah.
So how long did you have to battle your mind then about weight?
I'm still
Forever?
doing it. Yeah. Still doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's part of your wiring, or do you think that's part of your profession
You're
and your
going to find
looks?
that every single model that was successful, maybe even not the ones that weren't successful, they always have something they don't like about themselves. One thing. Someone may mention their eyebrow or their nose or their ears being off or something. And for you and I, it wouldn't bug us because we're not sensitive to it.
Right, right.
But one little thing, and when every photo you look at, that's what you look to
That's
see.
what they
Oh,
see.
did I pass that test? Or, oh, am I fine? But for some reason, because I grew up swimming and swam so often, was always in a swimsuit, I didn't feel self-conscious in the Sports Illustrated swimsuits. I kind of felt at home.
Good.
We
Good.
didn't really starve. I mean, but I'm 21 to 29 those years. I had babies in between, so.
You had babies in between and you bounced back?
Yes, actually. So in 86, I had my son, April of 86. That year, October, did a Sports Illustrated, came back the week later and ran the New York City Marathon.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I
So
did.
you are a way overachiever. Have you taken the Enneagram test? Do you know about
No,
the Enneagram?
no, I've taken other tests, but I don't.
Okay, I bet you're a 3. They're just achievers. You're just an achiever. So you look at this, not, if your goal was to get back into the swimsuit, it was the competition you have with yourself
Oh,
to
yeah.
get it done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a couple weeks after giving birth to my oldest son in 86, I think it was 10 days, I was out running. Again, the
Kim!
doctor said, give
I
it
was gonna
6 weeks. Oh no, 10
say.
days. I was out running. We had a little problem after that, but
Yeah. Yeah, the body will tell you, put the brakes on it.
yeah.
Do you feel like then that you developed an eating disorder through those years, or disordered eating, I think is what they call it now?
No, I just learned. I mean, I probably had days or times when, yes, I would be eating or doing the wrong thing. I would almost go the other way. So I have a story with Irving Penn. Do you know who he was? He was a
I
very
remember.
famous older gentleman photographer.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
He worked a
Yes,
lot
yes,
with
yes, yes.
So I was working for him for Vogue one day, and you do hours and hours of hair and makeup. You start at 9 in the morning and you do hours of makeup, and then they do your hair, and then they put on clothes. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Penn decides he's going to call lunch. Well, I kind of felt a little fat that day. So I decided, okay, I'm going to be virtuous. I'm just not going to eat. So I literally stood in the clothes because you cannot sit and wrinkle them, right? So I stood in the clothes.
My
I didn't
gosh.
move my hair because if you move your hair, then whatever style it was kind of just gets messed up, right? So I
Yeah.
kept my head in position and I kind of just stood there and watched everyone eat, starving, right? But I'm thinking, oh, well, this is for a good cause. So then I get on set with Mr. Penn. He
Oh.
looks through his lens. He looks up at me. He looks back through his lens, and he was using a 4x5 Hasselblad.
What's a 4x5?
It's just it's
The small
a
camera?
type of a camera. So it wasn't
Okay.
35 millimeter. And so he's looking through that, and he looks up and he says, I can't work with her. She has no life in her eyes, off the set. And I never worked with him
Seriously.
again.
Seriously.
Never worked with him again.
I want you young girls to listen to that story.
Yep.
Food is life.
Yes.
It's fuel.
Yes.
And you were sitting there thinking, this is my goal, but your innards weren't showing what you thought your outward area was expressing.
Right.
You thought, I'm fine, I'm going to do this. No, you're starving.
Yeah, I was starving. Yeah. So I had to learn to eat foods that were beneficial and supportive for me instead of throwing me in the opposite direction. And then if I did eat something that was a cheat because I wanted to not feel deprived, those feelings where you just don't want to feel deprived, I would go out and run 10 miles. I used to be able to go do that, and I'd burn whatever it was off. So I had a chocolate chip cookie around. I mean, I'd say that I'd run marathons for chocolate chip cookies because I love chocolate chip cookies.
Well, I want to get the young girls around the radio on this, or however you're listening to this. I'm so used to being in radio. You can't do that anymore in your 40s and 50s. Okay, kids? In your 20s, you can skip lunch and lose 5 pounds. In your 30s, you can skip dinner and lose 5 pounds. In your 40s, you have to skip all of December. So I'm glad to know, because
you totally forget about it. It's like, oh my goodness.
Right. Well, that's why, not that this is about me, but just to let you know, my connection is, I'm a Hashimoto's patient.
Me too.
Thyroid patient.
Me too.
And I'm an intermittent faster. So intermittent fasting changed my life in 2017. I'm a certified health coach from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York, there on 7th Street, or 7th Avenue, actually. I know them,
yeah.
Yeah. And so that I now see what the body needs in our 40s and 50s and 60s. And you can't live that life anymore. So I'm assuming that the punchline is then you got to your 40s. If you had the chocolate chip cookie and you ran 10 miles, you may have gained 5 pounds.
I couldn't even run 10 miles at some of it. I guess I ran my last marathon at 46, but yeah, that was enough of that. So my problem was training for that last marathon at 46. I gained 15 pounds because my adrenals were so burned out and my cortisol levels rose. And so then it's the whole other battle.
You love exercise, because I remember Jody saying that about you, that your kids, you were always on adventures and doing things. What do you do now in your 60s? Because now we know exercise affects our mental health,
right? And
we want strength.
Right.
As much as anything. But what do you do now for fitness?
So I started having knee problems, just had an MRI, my first one ever at 62.
Oh, no.
And so I have micro fractures in my knee. And so I'm like, they said, you can't run anymore. I'm like, what? I mean, that was my go-to. Just run out the door. I don't care what hotel I was in, what country I was in, Thailand, whatever it was. I was just out the door running. So now it's back to swimming, back in the pool.
Okay.
And also biking. And then I go to the gym. I love lifting. I lift with dumbbells. I'm with the guys over by the all the dumbbells and just love.
Is that right?
Yeah, love
so
that
cute.
more than the machines. And I'm not really a class girl. I don't mind doing a spin class once in a while, but I find they're constantly pushing, and I take that to heart. So when they say add more weight, I'm adding, and I come out of there wiped out. So I have to, again, be careful of not overdoing it.
Yeah. You don't have to be told twice. You are so driven, Kim, that they tell you and you're like, all righty.
Yeah.
Are you a golfer?
Okay.
Yeah. Are you a golfer? Because golfers are so competitive with themselves.
Yes. So I started doing golf. I mean, I grew up playing golf, but I took it up probably 7 years ago as a way to get out and help charities. So yeah, I enjoy. Great. I don't play enough to be great, but thank God it's best ball. And sometimes I've got a great drive or a great putt and I can contribute.
Good.
My middle game, it's hard. When you play with guys and you're on a fairway and they're like, oh, it's 200 yards to the green. I'm like, okay, well, that's my driver. And I can't hit a driver off of the fairway. So I'm like, you guys go. I'm never going to get it that far.
So you don't mind competing with guys then?
I've learned that they're happy if you're fun and if you're energetic, and for the most part that's all they really are looking for. And once in a while you tell them they have a good shot, believe it or not, they're the ones trying to show off for you.
Isn't that cute?
So,
well, not many times they play with the supermodels. So I'm sure they're all showing off for you, but
well, and they
that's
do
great.
Sometimes they do great. Because you have to stand there on the men's tee, right? And I've got my ball and my tee ready to go, and I've got my driver, all my gloves on, and I'm standing there. When they're all done talking on the tee, I have to run down to the ladies' tee, right? And I hate them all waiting for me.
Yeah.
So you know how they drive the cart up and then they're quiet and they're sitting there, and so I'm like,
they're all
nope, I've already smacked the ball. I've already smacked the ball. It's over there. It's good.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so we've gotten you to about the late 80s. You had both the boy. You have two boys.
I have three sons.
Three sons. That's right. That's right. You had all boys. And then did your interest in modeling dissipate, or because I know you love being a mother?
I loved being a mother. So when I got my Revlon contract in 83, 84, somewhere around there, I was paid not to work, meaning I was exclusive. So they only wanted me for certain things. They didn't want me spread out all over the place.
Okay, good.
Well, I had that contract for 3 years. And then because I replaced Lauren Hutton for
I remember.
contract.
I mean, people are still talking about the water cooler, I'm sure. I mean, that was a big deal.
Well, so then trying to go back and do what I was doing before Revlon didn't work. People would be like, what are you doing here? You're better than this. Why are you at this, Sears booking or whatever it would be?
I see. Yeah.
So I realized that my branding had changed and I needed to start pursuing other things. So that's why I went into hosting TV shows. And then I went on a speaking circuit and just trying different other opportunities. My parents had raised me, you can try anything you put your mind to. Just give it a try. The important part was trying.
You were reinventing yourself.
Yeah, I still am.
Yeah, good. Same. Why do you think I'm 60 and I'm a health coach? I mean, washed up radio TV personality. All right, I do something else.
Yes.
But part of that too is a work ethic that's not going to let you slow down.
Right.
So your parents did something right. So that was Ponte Vedra Beach. So were you glad to be out of the cold and rain and dark winters of New York?
Yeah, but when you grow up with that in Buffalo, New York, you kind of think that's normal. So
yeah, it's not.
I would go down and it would be Christmas time and my sons would be out throwing footballs and I'm like, wait, we're supposed to be inside and there's supposed to be a blizzard outside and we're all supposed to be sitting around watching football on TV, not playing it outside at 80 degrees. So we all grow up with different things that we get used to. Some people were used to palm trees at Christmas. I was not. I was used to a heck of a lot of snow.
And now where are you? Where on the globe are you?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, well, that's paradise.
Yes.
My husband just said today, he goes, what if we wintered in Scottsdale? I go, you could talk me into that.
Yeah.
Because we don't like now, the older you get, I mean, I sound like my grandmother, but it is cold in the winter. Even in Arkansas, we can have some cold days, and I want sunlight. Don't you love the sunlight?
I do. And the ability to be able to go out at any point. Actually get a little offended when it rains too much here. I'm like, what? It's slowing me down.
Well, that happens for about 3 days in February, right?
Yeah. Maybe a couple
monsoon.
in November. Yeah.
Now, I will say your summers are pretty brutal. What do you do in the summer?
I embrace it and enhance it. So riding a bike, you get a little breeze and wind and try and get your exercise done before 9 a.m. and be done for the day.
Huh. So you're not married to the boy's father anymore, right? No. You have a different husband. Tell me about the Kim Alexis now then that you'd like to share. It's totally up to you.
That's too general of a question.
Well, I don't want you to think I'm prying because it's your personal life and I want to be respectful of that, but spill the tea.
Yeah, so I'm married for 5 years and he's lived here since he was, I think, 20. And I never thought I would date someone that was, let alone living in Scottsdale versus move here, but I really do enjoy it. So
good.
He's wonderful. It's wonderful to be loved and protected and taken care of. And
isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And your faith is important to you.
Yes, my faith is important to me. So I'm actually studying, I'm getting an associate's degree in theology. So studying under Kevin Zadai, who's he's got a big school. And so it's accredited through Primus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do when you grow up?
I my big, if you could say it in one word, would be encouraging to other women, and I'm a natural teacher. So I've started doing small videos. My brand at this point is Clean Living, and it's all aspects, whether it's the fitness, the nutrition,
Yeah.
your mindset, and
Yeah.
also your spirituality. So all those make up your package, and all are
Absolutely.
equally important and need
Yeah.
to be poured into and fed daily. So try and do that.
Was there a time that you were not abiding by the clean living principles? Like, did
Ye-
you have to get burned as someone in their 20s that
Yeah.
dipped your toe in whether it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
illicit drugs or eating crap or whatever? Because it's all
Yeah.
bad for you.
Yeah. No, it wasn't so much eating poorly, but there was something that I would take to not have much of an appetite for
Yeah.
a while.
Right.
Because people would give you feedback, or the stylist would purposely zip you in the zipper and say, honey, you need to lose weight or something, just to make
Oh.
themselves feel better.
Mm.
So I took all those words to heart and thought, okay, well, let's just, again, not eat. How healthy is that?
Right.
So there was a time where I was in bad relationships and with men that I should not have listened to and been with, and different, even agencies putting you in bad positions and bad scenarios, and thinking that they were protecting you, and that was your like mother agency, and they were looking
Yeah.
out for your best interest. And sometimes it wasn't so. So learning to set healthy boundaries, and what made me feel good about myself, and where I needed to say no, no matter how angry I made people feel, because that was just their opinion. I'd have to say to myself, okay, that's their opinion. It's not my opinion. So
That's very
I
healthy.
learned healthy boundaries. And when you're a model, to be a successful model, you become a people pleaser, because you're trying to give the photographer the shot or the advertising agency whatever look it is that they want. So I was very good at reading what other people wanted. And then when it would cross the line as to what I felt comfortable with, I'd have to say, I don't care what you think, and sometimes walk out of bookings. And then
Wow.
I'd have my agency mad at me. I would have everyone in the room mad at me. But guess what? Down the line, I mean, we didn't know back in the 80s and 70s about Google, right?
No. Right.
Being
There
able
was,
to find.
no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So
Yeah.
thank God.
Back in the day, then, were you and Christy Brinkley like cruising the Sonic in Manhattan and ordering cherry limeades together? Like, were you pals with the models, your peers?
I was. I can't ever imagine having a cherry, whatever you just said.
I know, that's what you do in Arkansas. At 2:00, it's happy hour. You
Yeah.
cruise the Sonic, you get a cherry limeade, and then it's half price. You go about your day.
There's not much good in those things, I don't think.
Girl, I know. It's part of the ruse of
Yeah.
people, just meaning, were you chums? Were you doing stuff together?
No, not really. I mean, number one, we're all working. She's 5-6 years older than I am.
Okay, well then who?
But
So your peers, we said, were Janice Dickerson or Dickinson.
I know. Well, who I'd hang out with is Kelly Emberg and Nancy
Kelly
Donahue,
Emberg.
and then Carol Alt is 1 year younger than me. So they're still who I keep in touch with.
And are they still active, doing things, wanting to model? Modeling wise.
No, they're
appearances.
They're off into other ventures.
Like you.
Yeah. Yep.
That's. So here you are, 62. Then you want to ride off into the sunset because you'll live to 102. I mean, if you haven't had cherry limeade, you're going to live to 132. While I'm going to die at 102 because I used to drink them back when I didn't put good fuel in my body.
Don't you like sweet tea? Don't you like the sweet tea?
Yes, of course I like the sweet tea. But yeah, sugar. Do we need to discuss sugar? Sugar is poison, y'all.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
yeah.
It feeds cancer.
Yeah.
It feeds dementia.
Yeah. It makes your body
Alzheimer's.
acidic. Yeah.
Yes, right. There are just so many things about it. But Thanksgiving's next week, and I might even have a glass of wine with my sweet tea and my pecan pie.
Oh, pecan pie.
Really, live on.
Put weight on pecan pie, and those bins of those popcorn with the caramel and the. Oh.
Yes, we like to call that popcorn goodness. We like to call that heaven.
Yeah, no, there's certain things that make the hips grow, and those two are some of them.
Well, wait, you want to talk about why? Because it's inflammatory. Corn is genetically modified.
Yep.
So the corn that we're eating isn't what the pilgrims ate.
Right.
And that's why the pilgrims weren't fat. We're fat from eating corn and sugar,
right,
because it's highly processed frankenfoods, and it makes our bellies get bigger.
Yeah. Well, and the pecan pie is just the carbs and the sugar together.
And it's delicious.
I'll
just tell you that. So as I was saying, as your next few years, then you want to encourage women. Are you a grandparent yet?
No, and I have a 36-year-old son.
Well, yeah. I've got a 24-year-old model daughter. I would think the DNA there would be very good.
Yeah.
Grandparenting is the best invention since the false eyelashes were invented.
So I tell my sons for the last 10 years, it'd be real nice to have a grandchild. And they turn white as a sheet and they're like, Mom.
Oh, is that politically incorrect? Can we not do that anymore?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Then they'll say, when are you going to move back here? I'm like, when you give me a child and
that's good.
Then I'll come
that's good.
Buy a condo there. And they're like, I knew you were going to say that.
That's a great incentive.
Yeah.
Are all 3 boys in the Jacksonville area?
Yes. Yep. And none married.
Oh. Wait, they are or aren't?
They are in Jacksonville at the beach, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's paradise right there. So, all right. I know where we're going to Christmas. We're coming to see Kim Alexis' family in Jacksonville when we can get down there. When you have a grandbaby, invite everybody. Kim, you're a doll. And what's amazing is your tresses, your hair is as youthful as it was when you were 18. How do you keep your hair in such good condition? Diet?
I don't know. So literally when COVID hit, February of 2019, my hair was to here.
Nuh-uh.
So this
you had short hair?
Grown since then. It's 2.5 years grown.
How come it looks so good? Like, what's your secret?
You got to find the combination. So I just did this video on toxic shampoos. Do you know how many toxins are in shampoos? Oh my goodness. So now I'm looking for all these natural ones, and I actually did. I put on some conditioner, and it was like my hair. It was terrible. So I'm like, okay, there's might be some really toxin free, but some don't work on your hair. So I literally have been playing around with what does and doesn't work.
Okay. Well, whatever you're doing is working.
Thank you.
So I'll send people, we'll put a link in the show notes to kimalexis.com.
There you go.
And they can reach out to you. We can hire you to come speak to our group and pay you millions of dollars. And when you come to Arkansas, we're going to the Sonic, and we're going to drive through and get the cherry limeade.
No, we're going to find something there that's healthy.
Okay.
It's got to be something. We're going to have
water. Right, we're going to have water there. You come see us anytime in Arkansas, but God bless you, and really proud of the hard work you've exhibited and the hard work you're showing people that 62 is not slowing you down at all.
No, trying not to.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and download all the episodes and leave a review, won't you? The Lisa Fisher Said podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.